Hello, good morning, or afternoon, or evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is Pete Gallagher, and on behalf of myself and producer-editor Tim Valley, we would like to welcome you to the Florida Folk Show podcast and a special presentation of the virtual Florida Folk Festival. Ever since we began the Florida Folk Show podcast last year, we have been planning an episode dedicated to the Florida Folk Festival to premiere in March or April to promote the Memorial Day weekend event that's been going on for 67 years. The coronavirus caused cancellation of the 2020 festival, radically changing our plans. We first went into my extensive personal media archives, gathered over a half century as a writer and photographer here in Florida. Then the state archives, the Florida Memory Project, and reaching out to anyone we knew had, or we suspected had, Florida Folk Festival film, video, photos, tapes, and began sorting, filing, and collecting it all into one place. It brought back an enormous flash flood of memories for me, since Florida folk singer Don Grooms, one of my professors at the University of Florida Journalism School, told me about the festival and invited me to attend the 1971 show. I've only missed 3, all due to work conflicts. From the moment word went out that there would be no festival this year, I felt a disturbing emptiness that only increased as the months went by. Other friends were talking and telling me the very same thing. They had similar feelings. One day I happened to talk with the legendary Roy Bookbinder, who lives in St. Pete, a national folk artist, who told me he had just returned from North Carolina, where he and several of his famous musical friends had produced a virtual Merle Fest, which also had been canceled this year. He said the Merle Fest producers loved it. It kept the name alive and gave people hope that it would return next year. Bingo! I called Tim and said, why not create a virtual folk festival? I mean, if they can have a NASCAR race or a baseball game, a virtual, why can't we have, or a Merle Fest virtual, why can't we have a Florida Folk Festival, a virtual folk festival? And he said that's possible. I spoke to the managers of the Stephen Foster Park and also the nearby Paynes Prairie State Park to see what they thought about it, and they loved the idea. They were very supportive, but emphasized that it could not occur on state parkland, because if we put on a show of some kind, or even if there was no people in the audience, it would still draw a crowd, and it might violate the state's orders from the governor regarding social distancing. So we decided that we would go in and produce a video that would be over 30, maybe 30 hours or more long, mirroring the same hours that the Florida Folk Festival would be putting on video Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and put it up on the podcast and the podcast YouTube channel, make it easy for people to get to, and it would be there. It would be there. They could watch it anytime. They wouldn't have to get up at 10 in the morning to see the beginning or anything else. It would be there forever, or at least however online is on, if you know what I mean. So here we are, this weekend, May 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. We're on the Florida Folk Show YouTube channel at 10 a.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And at that time, we'll release virtual Folk Fest programming filled with hours and hours of Florida Folk Festival music and memories. Our content spans from the earliest years all the way up to last year's festival. Because of this, of course, the production quality can vary greatly, from highly produced videos with modern technology to, old grainy black and white videos and photos, and transversing every level over the past 67 years of technology and production quality in between. Regardless of the production quality, each recording contains the spirit of the festival and some of them are gripping to watch and remember. And many people who have never heard of Will McLean or Gamble Rogers or were actually alive even when these guys were performing, we'll get to see them in all their glory. Bobby Hicks. All we ask is if you enjoy and approve of this effort, click the subscribe button, big red button, to the Florida Folk Show Podcast YouTube channel, and follow the Florida Folk Show Podcast on Facebook. You can find links to all of that and more on our website, www.floridafolkshow.com. So, here we are with greatly appreciated help from the Friends of Florida Folk, especially Miss Goody Haynes and Gary Fuller, Dennis Devine and Doug Goss, as well as the fine filmmaker and Florida historian Donna Green Townsend, and Jay Robert down there in Marco Island, and of course the patriarch of Florida folk music, songwriter Frank Thomas, who's penned over 400 Florida folk songs. And he was proud, he said, to play his brand new cutaway Gibson J45 guitar for this podcast, as well as the many individual folk artists that have been cheering our efforts from across the state and sending us videos, pictures, whatever they could. Producer Tim Valley has assembled and designed an outstanding panorama of programs guaranteed to warm the old memory bank and hopefully help us bask in the joy of reminiscing instead of sadness at what we're losing for just 1 year. For, remember, there is hope. And the Florida Folk Festival will be back. I guarantee it. So, are we rolling, Tim?